Hello, everybody, and welcome to what's probably going to be our last in-studio recording session, as someone is a little gassy.
Sorry.
But at the same time, Alex and I are in the same room.
For the first time in quite some time. Was it late January? Maybe early February?
I don't even know. We're going to have to...
Not even.
Yeah, it's been a
long while.
Not
since the boy's been born, so...
Yeah.
Wow.
So...
It's been a few.
It's an important moment for us, but this is Romancing Our Stones, your male survival guide to pop culture and media that your girl will drag you to. My name is Matt.
And I'm Alex.
And welcome to our favorite rendition. This is the one where we go over the sex auditions episode of the Bachelor, Bachelorette franchise. They call it the Fantasy Suite, where they can take time to speak intimately about things that matter.
And have conversations.
But they speak with their hips and have conversations. And this is a direct quote, conversations and conversations and conversations. Man, it's a lot of pounding some conversations in, let me tell you.
We got a lot of conversations in these episodes.
Absolutely. So, but before we get started, Alex, what you drinking?
I'm drinking the beer you gave me. I decided to save it for this special occasion. This is the WeldWorks Brewing Juicy Bits India Pale Ale, brewed with Citra, Mosaic, and Eldorado hops. You are the source of the information, so I don't know.
It's out of Greeley, Colorado, and it was rated the #1 IPA in the state. So I thought it was my duty to bring it to you to make you...
I'm excited. This will do the trick for me, so I'm going to crack this one open right now.
Yeah, I think it's like a 6 point something.
Oh, yeah, and it's Tallboy.
Oh, yeah.
So, what are you drinking?
I am drinking from Oscar Blues Brewery, because this is an episode where they go to the Fantasy Suite, and our old Maddie probably had a chub. I'm drinking an Old Chub Scottish Ale from Oscar Blues, and it is 8% alcohol, 12 fluid ounces, out of Denver, Colorado.
Ooh, sounds great.
Yeah.
Right from the start.
These have been in your fridge since before Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called aging. Ever heard of it?
I haven't, no, not with prepackaged beer.
Cans?
Yeah, but I do appreciate the effort. And, yeah, so cheers, bud. Cheers to being in person. Clink.
Recording. We'll add that in post.
Yeah, we'll add the sound effects in. Well, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. We know that this season The Bachelor has been an interesting one. Viewership is down considerably. Yeah. I read it was, they lost 800,000 viewers between the hometowns and the Women Tell All. And we know the diehards are still listening, so we just want to say we love you.
Yes,
so much.
We can't wait to share conversations with you.
Yeah, there's some stuff to talk about in here. But anyway, we'll jump right into it. The episode starts out with all the girls standing outside and going for a walk.
Mm-hmm. To their same suite, which they will share for the next 3 nights.
Correct. And they have this weird, I don't know when this started, but they have this weird, like, walk of shame interview with, like, the other contestants. Like, hey, you have to walk in, you have to, like, act like you're not super stoked, or you're, like, just kind of, like, moseying on in, and everyone's like, hey, how was it? And you have to, like, play it off like it wasn't super great. Like, hey, it was cool.
Yeah.
Cool. We got to talk.
I'm feeling good. Yeah, and then when everybody goes, so what'd you do? It's always, well, we went apple picking. It's like, that's not what I was asking, and you damn well know that's not what I was asking.
That's not what I want to know. Can you imagine if someone was actually just truthful? They walk in like, yeah, we hit me from behind, and then we took a quick little refresher break. We had some spritzers, and then straight missionary style for 45 minutes. I mean,
or more likely, it's probably, yeah, you know how weird and awkward of a kisser Matt is? Doesn't stop there.
Yeah. So, they're sitting on the couch. Rachel talks about how much she wants it. But she doesn't define what it is, but she wants it. Chris Harrison comes in, and he revealed something that I thought was kind of interesting. There's been 38 women this season.
Wow.
And not at one time, but overall, 38 people showed up. I don't think that's ever been touched before.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But as soon as the overnight dates were mentioned, you see kind of Rachel shift in her chair. Kind of like...
Oh, yeah, she's uncomfortable.
And ABC really played up, especially on International Women's Day, which is today, that these fantasy suites are all about talking and talking about kids and marriage and all these things that you want to talk about. You notice that, it's all about talking?
Yep. Yeah. They true to form, they try and mask what's really going on behind the veil of the production.
And for the first-time viewers, can you describe to them what exactly is going on, Alex?
Well, even if you go with the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time, that door closes, the mics are turned off, and the birds and the bees are taking place. Guys and gals, if you haven't had that conversation yet, call your local dad. I'm not going to do it.
Speaking of dads, we'll get to that first. But I wrote down here, I wanted to ask you, what order would you want to be in if you made it this far? Would you want to be first, or would you want to be last, or would you? I mean, I think we both agree the worst place to be is in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, all three are agonizing. The middle one would be weird. I think honestly, I'd want to be the last.
Really?
I think because the memory stays. Right? You have the advantage of him remembering most what happened on your date.
Okay.
So,
but you also have the highest chance of getting venereal disease.
Yeah.
So
exactly. I
mean, first you could be, kind of get in there and, maybe he'll say no to everyone else, but he definitely said yes to you.
Yep. I guess. You're more playing the numbers game?
Yeah, I mean, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. And speaking of bush, I'm joking.
I never heard it put that way. I always call it getting two birds stoned at once.
Wow. All right. That took a turn. So before Matt can do this, he needs to meet with his dad. Have a conversation with old Daddy-O. Which I can imagine ABC was just sitting back here, like when they're interviewing Matt to be the Bachelor, they're like, how's your relationship with your dad? It's terrible. It really is terrible.
I talk to him maybe once a year. Probably.
Yeah, he left me. This is good. Yeah, you're going to have to talk to him.
He's on a plane.
Yeah. You have baggage, and you can't get rid of it until you have this conversation with him. That conversation served nobody.
Well, and let's preface this, because we were together watching the episode.
Yeah,
and as we always do for fantasy suite episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
But we were watching together, and you mentioned something specifically. You said they had to have edited the crap out of this conversation. So we'll preface with the fact that because it serves nobody, Matt or his dad actually even include them in part of this too. But as the viewer, you get nothing out of this conversation because there's a whole lot that's missed somewhere, and they cut right through it, and you do not see it.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you there's probably an hour to 2 hours of conversation that they condensed down to probably 5 minutes.
I would hope so, because, Matt was super aggressive with his dad, and I understand he's mad, but there's really nothing at that point his dad can do. So what was Matt's goal?
The damage has been done.
Yeah, and, his dad was kind of like at the beginning, he's like, you just got to let that go. Which I know Matt can't easily do, but Matt's also standing there really pressing the issue about how bad he is and how much his dad hurt him. And, I guess confront your person that harmed you. But, at the same time, there's nothing that his dad could do. And Matt used the relationship that his dad had as his reasoning for never having a relationship before every single dinner of this episode.
Yeah.
And it got repetitive, and it gets to a certain point in time, Matt, where, he's like, I just needed to have the conversation to realize I want to be nothing like him. You should have already known that. And it opens up with Matt just barrages him. This is and you mentioned this too, and I'll let you elaborate, but you mentioned this is in no way a healthy conversation from the get-go. No.
He just starts accusing him, not calling names, but really just calling him out, and it's more of a trial by fire than it is a conversation to mend. It does not come off that way. Again, but Matt's just saying he's wanted to take body shots on his dad for years, and he's always, it's kind of like that. Boy, if I ever got my dad in a room, I'd really let him have it. That's basically how this this conversation started.
And he framed it like he was doing his dad a favor and getting to finally hear his dad's side of the story, but he had no intention of hearing what his dad had to say. And I'm not saying his dad is right, and I'm not saying Matt is wrong, but I'm just saying that conversation was not healthy. And then and this conversation shouldn't be had on national TV.
No, that's not the place to have this conversation. 2, you can tell, and like you said, Matt's dad is by no means in the right. And Matt's necessarily not in the right either, but yeah, again, not the place to have this conversation on national TV. Secondly, you learn how little Matt actually knows about his dad. His dad literally says, he goes, I didn't have that either. My dad died when I was 5. And you look at, like, Matt's got this blank expression on his face, like he never knew that. I'm like, if you don't even know who your grandfather is, what happened to your grandfather, you don't know a whole lot about your dad either in terms of upbringing. And I find it hard. What Matt can call him out on are things that he did to him, right? Or wasn't there for him or whatever. Like, that's the thing. But if you really wanted to heal right up front, you tell him how you're feeling. Not you're this, you're that, you this. And then I never want to be like you. Like, imagine your son brings you on a national television to have this conversation with you, where he just basically tells you that he never wants to be with you, what a piece of crap you are.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy had every right to walk away.
And I mean, again, we don't want to give his dad any excuses, but all of Matt's statements were definitive you statements. They were, you did this, you hurt mom, you did this. And, it just, and then, the thing that pissed me off the most, I think, about this whole conversation is that it was sponsored by Chuck E. Cheese. And
what did Matt say?
He said if we were celebrating, we'd go to Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, they're defunct, they're bankrupt, and who chooses a rat as their mascot to sell pizza?
Well, the worst part is, it makes you wonder if they kind of catfished his dad. Because he comes like, this is really great for you. And like, he's excited for him to be in this moment. And Matt goes, oh, this is not how this conversation's going. Like, now, to be fair, he could have been trying to just blow over the whole thing and dodge accepting responsibility, which sounds like that might be kind of status quo for him.
But even if he does...
Sounds like he was set up.
Even if he does... First off, this conversation was more about being a father than being a husband.
Yeah.
So Matt didn't have to have this conversation to get engaged.
No.
So...
What's he going to learn from his dad about being a husband? Nothing. So
you learn about what not to do by looking at your father.
Yep.
But this was about him being a dad.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with this whole thing. So that's what I did. It frustrated me, and I thought that the national TV was not a place to have this. And just Matt needs a therapist. He doesn't need to have this conversation.
Yeah.
I hate how production played off like he's all good now. He got it off his chest. He's all good.
Again, he just wanted to wail on his dad verbally. Probably what he's been looking to do for probably 10 years.
And he kept saying, like, I'm not holding on to grudges. There's no hard feelings. I'm like, what was this all about then?
Yeah. Well, one thing I thought, and I want to make note of, is he said, he talked about his dad cheating on his mom, right? And he talked about... And he was like, well, what kind of man does that? And he's grilling him. And given the circumstances of this show, and society allows for this to take place in the form of this show, but Matt's been kissing multiple girls on the same night, or going on multiple dates with different women on the same night. And yes, he's not married. I understand that. But he's not that far off. I mean, if you're a lady and you're dating a guy and you're finding out that he's dating 4 other girls and he's taking all of those seriously to the next level as he's taking it seriously on the next level with you, kind of a scumbag move, like in normal society, but we allow for this to take place on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, and it's somehow excusable. If I was a dad, I'd get a little defensive, being like, dude, you know what show you're on? You're literally doing the same thing just in your dating life right now. You're about to have sex, arguably, with 3 women within 3 nights, and they're all different women. and you're supposedly in deep relationships with all of them, where you might ask one of them on a date or out to marry you. Like, come on, man. Like, pot calling the kettle black a little here. Like, you got to be careful about that one. I don't appreciate Matt really hammering him on that one, because it's like, you're kind of doing the same thing right now.
Yeah. And I guess I'm late to the party or I'm slow. I thought Matt's dad was a carny, and when he had an affair when he was with his mom, I thought he had a fair, like a carnival. I'm now realizing that he had extramarital activity. So I feel dumb.
He's not the 1,000-pound man.
He's not the guess your weight guy. He's not the basketball hoop with the contorted. So I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm glad that I'm back on the same page now. That has a right to be mad.
That light bulb just went off.
Yeah. But anyway, they have this stupid conversation. They hug it out. And I guess life is good.
Again, no hard feelings after he took his shots on him. All right, cool. Thanks for that. That was therapeutic for him.
It's kind of like, someone beating someone up, and like when they're saying they're sorry, like, we kind of deserved it, but we're good now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, Dad did deserve a little bit of a tongue lashing, but it wasn't at all marketed like that by Matt. It was like this is for me to get clarity, just talk to you about what I want to be. It's like, no, you're just wailing on him the entire 5 minutes the production crew covered this. But they cut all of a sudden to them being cool and actually having closure in conversation and actually getting to a good and healthy point.
Correct.
Which you're going, there was no bridging communication that we saw as viewers. They just jumped to that. Like, how did they logically jump there? They didn't.
It's like, you suck and I love you. Okay, I love you too.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, agreed. Like, yeah, what?
So Matt said he grew a lot after this talk. So he's actually 6'7" now.
That's why his pants were so short afterwards.
Oh, see, I think
that's why they only went to like his mid ankle.
He's got to stop having all these growing conversations because he's tall.
His pants they're too short all the time now.
When did regular jeans become capris?
I don't know.
Like we're in the calf.
I know.
But speaking of fashion, Matt to look like an actual turtle in his turtleneck because it was a green turtleneck with a yellow collar. And to make Michelle, who was first, feel good, they get a spa day, which to every man means a semi-naked afternoon, or fully naked, depending if there's cameras in the room or not.
For Fantasy Suite, it's a pregame, right?
And they walk into a room, what's called a Pennsylvanian Dutch spa day. They walk into a room with a bathtub, which seems to be full of cow semen. And they have oatmeal, and there's bearskin rugs,
and there's stacks of butter on
and there's zero instructions. So they just start rubbing everything on everyone.
Yeah. I think personally, and I said this when we were watching it, but this has got to be the strangest date in Bachelorette history. Mm-hmm. Even with all the dates that they tried to play off as awkward and weird, those pale in comparison to whatever this date was. They were literally rubbing butter on each other, sticking their feet in like hot oatmeal, like cooked oatmeal, and then pouring, I guess, probably hot, if not lukewarm, milk on each other. What the heck? Like, what?
I bet vegans in the United States were just cringing at this whole
They're probably going to cancel this episode.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing to get angry at this series about is all the cow
all the abuse
that have been, milked for all it's worth. I mean, this dairy-themed date, just went above and beyond.
It was just so strange.
It was an utter disaster.
It was so strange. By far the strangest thing I've seen on the show so far.
Yeah. And then they do that, and then they talk about staying in love, and it's Matt's like, I've never thought of that before.
Shame on Matt. Michelle, mature, because this show is also really good at sensationalizing the dating process and sensationalizing the proposal and the concept of marriage. They ain't following anybody 1, 2, 3, 4 years into it on a Tuesday morning. It's like relationships are work. She says it. She's like, it may look differently once kids are involved. You have a family. She's actually it's got to be why Matt likes her. Is probably because she's wise beyond her years, and she gets it, and she had good role models. So for him, she's probably actually blowing his mind that way because he's not. Nobody again. To his credit and to the lack of his dad's credit, nobody taught him to that's considered work in a relationship when you have kids, and when you hit that stage.
Well, the show focuses on the yummy parts, and
Yeah.
that's not a dairy joke. I'm just saying that, like, the show just focuses on the honeymoon phase of relationships, and ultimately, you gotta see. There's a lot of aspects outside of the yummy. There's how people fight, how they manage their finances, how they act when they miss a mortgage payment.
How they act when the guy goes out with the guys. Yeah. And the wife doesn't really care about that. About him doing that.
Or going out with the girls and navigating the mundane is like a very.
You find 95% of the marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the ficus needs to be watered, and the lawn needs to be mowed, and someone needs to go to the mailbox, and
somebody needs to dust and vacuum. Somebody needs to keep the kitchen clean.
We need to romanticize marriage a little less. Because I know all our 20-somethings listening are running to get engaged.
They can't wait.
Yeah.
They can't wait to get engaged now.
And just wait till you have kids, and then it's not even about you or your wife.
Yep.
It's about that little cute bundle of boogers.
You tell that man in the mirror to go F himself, and it's time to make this family happy. Go make some money.
Here we go again. Then he pulls out the envelope from under the dinner plate. And I feel like the men should have to ask the woman, or the woman has to ask the man, the bachelor or the bachelorette has to ask the contestant to stay with them, to forego their rooms. I don't think, I hate this handing off the card and then reading it and then immediately having them answer. It should be, in terms of consensual opportunity, I think that the
permission needs to be
the bachelor
granted.
Needs to be extend the offer, and it needs to be reciprocated. It can't be read this card and I'm going to base my answer off of what you say. I don't like that. But they said yes. She drops an L-bomb.
Yep. And we can't forget that before she drops the L-bomb, she says that she tells Matt that she's very sure that he is her person, that transcends all universal love.
Oh,
just like my old dog growing up, I was her person.
Everyone has a person out there. It's very possessive, I would say.
It is. So Michelle comes back. So the next morning, Michelle walks back into the suite. They obviously have the other girls sitting on the couch waiting for her to walk in, and that's where Michelle describes their date. About the Pennsylvania Dutch spa, which again was the
But they got to stay in Zelda's Hyrule Castle, which I thought was pretty cool. And then they did this thing where they were blowing kisses to each other.
Him from his
balcony.
Yeah.
And there's a weird Twitter statue on the grounds of the hotel. I would be remiss for not mentioning. And Rachel, they show a scene of Rachel worried, like she didn't see this coming, and it's like being shocked by a Jack in the Box. It's coming. At the end, there's going to be this. You should be able to handle it a little bit better. But then they have this weird walk of shame, when after the Masters, when the golfer comes off the 18th green, they go into the back room and then they immediately get interviewed by the press. That's essentially what these fantasy dates are. They go and they play 18 holes. Front nine and back nine, maybe. I'm not in the room. But then they get to there and all of a sudden they get interviewed. Like, what do you think of your strokes?
Yeah.
Were they good? Were they solid strokes?
Were you happy with your performance?
Yeah. Did you get wet at all? You hit in the water? Was it sandy?
Yeah.
So, very odd conversations. And they said conversations and conversations and
Michelle
conversations.
She goes, it was just really good to have just a whole night to him. And we had some conversations. And conversations and conversations and conversations.
And in Rachel's head, it was like, and sex and bang and bang. And Michelle's like, conversations on the bed, conversations on the couch, conversations in the kitchen, conversations in the bedroom, conversations in the bathroom, and sex.
If they did not have sex that night, the way she describes it,
they definitely had some oral conversations.
Awfully insinuated that there was some things going on. You can't say we had conversations and conversations and conversations. It's almost like the obligatory, obvious wink has to follow it, right?
I don't know if you have a conversation that flows to a lot of topics, but it occurs over the one night. Like you have one continue. You had a conversation. Well, it's like a conversation and a conversation and a conversation.
Well, like the way you saw that too was like with Andy and Juan Pablo way back when Andy was like, "F this guy, he's a complete and utter moron." It's because they talked the entire night, and she was like, "Get me out of here."
Yeah,
like that. Like you said, if it goes to multiple topics,
I like her. I like her a lot.
It's man, we spent the entire night literally just talking. It was great, right? And then it doesn't. You don't describe it as conversations and conversations and conversations.
And the conversations kept coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. Yeah. Then it was Bree's turn, and they made her walk a quarter mile just to get a good shot of her walking in the woods.
Yeah.
She comes up to Matt, and he decides to take her backpacking. He calls her Dora the Explorer, and they all laugh for what seemed about 3 minutes straight.
Yeah. Matt's a big, awkward laugher, too.
Yeah. And then Matt was talking about snakes in the area. Little did Bree know that he was talking about trouser snakes. And
we segue right into pitching a tent.
Yes. He said he's pitched many tents. He pitches one every morning. She
goes, have you ever pitched a tent? He goes, oh, yeah, I pitched plenty of tents. Matt.
Yeah, the innuendos are just too much. She was pissed when she thought that they were camping.
Yeah,
and I would be too. I mean, that would like mess up your back. They didn't have very good gear to begin with.
No, and not only that, but she even describes herself in the production crew like interview session. She's like, I'm the least outdoorsy person you know, and I remember thinking to myself, this is the type of girl where, and nothing against her at all. It's understandable. There's a lot of girls, the last thing they want to do is go camping, right? She's definitely one of those types. She just said, I'm the least outdoorsy person probably in this whole group. And you can't imagine if you were dating Bree and you're like, hey, babe, surprise, we're going camping this weekend. She'd be like, it better be glamping because I am not roughing it in a tent with you for 2 days. Like,
yeah.
And like, understandably so. If that's not her thing, that's not her thing. But she's putting on a brave face and she's keeping her eyes on the prize.
Well, she pretended like it was good. But,
she would have been pissed if they were already in a relationship.
Yeah, that would not fly. That's the yummy phase. Yeah. Is when you pretended to like things that your boyfriend or girlfriend does. Yeah. And then after you get married, then that's when you start putting the boundaries in. You know what? I don't like ballet. You know what? I don't like camping. Mm-hmm. But then they have dinner and he talks about his dad again. Same word for word conversation that he had with Michelle. And then they read the date card and they said yes. They didn't have a prop key there, but it showed up later on the table. And then I had a real big issue with Matt cooking bacon and butter in a pan with a shirt off.
His shirt off.
Makes me feel like he doesn't cook because that is brutal.
Didn't have any scars on that chest from bacon fat spitting up at him.
No,
that's for sure.
No, you only do that once.
Yep.
But when she walked away, he kept talking about, how hard it is because she said she loves him and he has a rose ceremony coming up, which makes me feel like his mind was already made up on what he's going to do with her.
Yeah, I don't know if that was a production play or what, but he's describing to the crew, or I guess to the viewer, right, that it's tough. He's gonna have to send somebody home, and it's literally as she's walking out the door that they're showing all this footage, and we're just looking at each other, being like, "She's got to be going home."
Yeah.
Like why is he talking about this now? He's like, man, just having her show up and like having this night with her, like it's just gonna be really tough to send somebody home. It's like you didn't mention that when you're sending Michelle home.
No.
Like and again, could have just been production crew. They could have interviewed him at any point talking about that. Who knows? But they're threading this in with her, and I'm like, suspicious. Okay,
we shall see.
So, and that's pretty much hers.
Yeah, and then we have Rachel. Rachel's all super psyched out.
In a bad way.
She walks up with her head down. She's not making eye contact. The only thing staring him straight in the face was her belly button, which was oddly protruding from her shirt.
She had a weird outfit on.
It was a very strange outfit.
She had those capri boyfriend pants, I think is what they call them. And it's like, and then she had this like skate strap top that had like a split down the middle that like exposed her belly button, and
her shirt looked like the Under Armour symbol.
Yeah,
it was very weird.
And I mean, she's cute, she's pretty, she's skinny enough, but
She's very skinny.
She didn't have the body to rock that shirt or that look because it was like her belly was just kind of pudging out there. I don't know if the pants were too tight or what, but I was kind of like, okay, all right. Anyways, she's not looking at Matt. She's not making eye contact, walking up.
And then they go to this pottery date, and she's totally not into it. I mean, this is a red flag date.
Yeah, I mean, she is firing passive aggressive signals of like she's pissed. She's not happy. And again, for our lady listeners, this is what guys.
What's up, ladies?
This is what guys hate. I shouldn't say that because most guys are actually, if they're not emotionally intelligent, they're not picking up on those signals. Yeah. But if you got the glimpse that your man is emotionally sensitive, he's got an intelligence there with emotions. Just have that conversation with him because what eats away will take longer to repair whatever beef you guys are about to have is by playing passive aggressive and making him ask about it time and time again. Yeah. Which to be fair, Matt might not be all that emotionally intelligent because he doesn't ask about it. It's up to her to be like, I can't do this anymore. We need to stop this. And they totally wreck their clay bowls that they're making for each other. They just let those dry.
They're killing this date.
That's a separate podcast. We'll get there later.
Yeah. But. Well, we were watching it together, and we're like, uh-oh, he needs to pull her aside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're getting awkward. He's like, is he not seeing how she's looking at it? And she's saying things like she's getting easily irritated. She's like, oh, this is like not working. It's just like, oh, she's not having fun at all. And it's like, it's not because the date isn't fun. It's actually probably the most fun date that I would have preferred to have if I was one of those 3 dates.
I guess that makes sense. No, you'd like Bree's date. We'd like Bree's date.
Well, we would because we like camping.
It's true. I'll throw axes at trees and stuff. So anyway, she pulls him aside and she says she's upset, but she totally gets it. But she's upset, which is a very typical 20-year-old woman conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm fine, but I'm mad.
Yep.
But it's fine. I get it, but I'm not happy.
Struggles to interpret own emotions.
Yes, correct. And they talk about her parachute crash and how sad he was, and all of a sudden they're back to normal. All is well.
He says the same thing that we were just like giving him a hard time for last week when he was like, I didn't realize that I loved her until she literally almost died. Like, what? That's what it takes for you to figure out if you love somebody, Matt? Come on. Anyway, so he basically says that story to her, which somehow makes her feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Then they go back to pottery. They rub clay on each other's faces.
They have fun again.
Then they go to a hotel room. Well, they have dinner, and he has the same conversation.
Yeah, about his dad. And that now he's ready for a relationship because
he's good now.
He body shot his dad for 20 minutes.
He had the talk, and he's good. And then they make out to fireworks, and then they probably bone. I'm just filling in the blank spaces here.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell it like it is.
No, it's fantastic. I love it.
He's a conductor and of the Bone Train to Pound Town. Michelle gets a rose. Rachel gets a rose. Bree goes home,
which the producers of the production led towards.
Very unceremonious goodbye, though.
Yeah. I mean, I think Matt said what all that he could say. He's like, look, I wish there was something that was, definite that I could tell you why I'm not choosing you, but there really isn't. I just feel more
stronger
towards these
elsewhere.
Yeah. Which is a tough position to be in. I feel like that would take a while to shake that one off. But
yeah, I get it.
But yeah, like you said though, it's cold, it's unceremonious, it's all right, bye. And she goes home. So
and they come back in, and the episode ends. So that is our episode, and this is Romancing Our Stones. Since this is a survival guide for males and female media, we give a Stones rating after every episode to talk about how tolerable this episode is. We each have 2 stones to give.
Naturally.
2 stones means you like the episode. No stones means an act of castration is preferable than watching this episode. So, Alex, why don't you take the honors here?
I'm going to give it 1 stone. Usually with fantasy suites, you're kind of having a lot of fun with, the innuendo throughout that's weaved throughout the whole episode, which it was there. It was there. You're looking at the conversations, see who's having actually some deep conversations. We got a little bit out of Michelle. Didn't really get it out of the rest of them. As after Michelle's date, I felt like my interest in the episode started declining pretty regularly on a downward spiral. So for that reason, I'm gonna give it 1 stone. I think it was entertaining up front, started losing its depth towards the end. We can also maybe chalk this up to Bachelor fatigue, just because again, it had all the elements that you're looking for. I just didn't. It wasn't as entertaining as I've been in the past watching Fantasy Suite episodes.
Yeah, I'll agree with you and give it 1 stone. A lot of elements I didn't like. The whole dad thing felt forced, and I'm not saying his dad is a good person for what he did, but that conversation accomplished nothing for anybody, including the viewers at home.
Yeah.
Nothing was earned from that.
Yeah.
And then they presented it like
it was a huge hurdle,
it was a
milestone.
huge success, and he's on the road to recovery. And I just felt that was kind of gimmicky. The dates were dumb, but they have been this whole season. So I'll give it 1 stone. It wasn't unbearable. I had a lot of fun watching with you, just kind of cracking jokes. I used all the good jokes when we were together, just watching.
All the jokes that are not suitable for the podcast world.
Yeah. That's for the behind the Patreon wall, which doesn't exist. But if you want to Venmo me, go ahead. I'll tell you some jokes. So 2 stones this episode. Don't forget to tweet us at ROS Stones Guys. Alex and I were busy making memes together throughout the show. On Instagram at ROS Stones Guys. Next episode is the finale. So if you want to be a guest host, maybe we should get Ryan back on here. Or get someone in here to talk, get another perspective from the season.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Slide into our DMs. Thanks to all our new listeners, Australia. We see you, Canada, listeners in Kenya, Mexico.
Wow.
Sweden,
Kenya.
Norway, Germany, France.
We're so international.
We are on International Women's Day. Our podcast is international.
Wow.
So thanks for sharing. Keep sharing. We appreciate it. We will talk to you all next week.